Greetings, all you yuckers and yummers out there. Welcome to another podcast of Don't Yuck My Yum.
What? Another one?
Another one!
We're still doing it.
Still doing it. We is still here.
Okay. Can I do the funny voice?
No.
All right, this entire episode I'm going to talk in a funny voice. Here we go.
No.
Welcome back to Don't Yuck My Yum. In this podcast, we're going to talk about a movie that I made her watch.
Oh my gosh.
No?
No, I don't think we're going to do that, babe.
Okay.
No, but this is going to be...
I'll bring it back at the end.
That's okay. You don't have to. This is going to be Carlito's choice.
Yes, it was my choice.
It was his choice.
And it was definitely something that, this was definitely a movie I had been wanting you to watch for a while, because I think this movie is probably one of the greatest movies to be made, in most recent years. I think so. I think I was even asked when I was on, a radio show with Paul, and he even asked me, what do you think is, one of the best modern films? And I said this movie. So, no pressure riding on or whether you liked it or not.
You mean all the pressure.
It is very revered, renowned. I mean, this is top dog. So
right.
If you would like to introduce us to the movie, and then maybe we'll just listen to your first thoughts about it. How's that sound?
Okay, we'll see. So the movie is Mad Max Fury Road.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Came out in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe it's been that long already?
I know. And what's crazy, too, is that this movie I think it was filmed in 2012.
Oh, it was filmed then, but didn't get released till then?
No, because it was so this movie was basically in development hell for a long time. Which, do you know what that is?
Nothing was going right, I'm guessing?
Right. It was, they tried to, start filming it, I'd say back in, I think George Miller, the guy he's made all the Mad Max movies, but he came up with the idea back in, the late 90s. I think 1997, and they even had started pre-production then, but then when they were about to, start filming, 9/11 happened, and so where they were going to film, I don't know if it was, where they actually filmed the movie, which was I think in Africa, or parts of the Middle East, but so obviously that got shut down.
Yeah.
And then George Miller went off and made 2 Happy Feet movies, and then he
just very opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, for those who don't know, the guy who made all the Mad Max movies also made both of the Happy Feet movies, which I also really like. Well, I haven't seen the second one, but I actually do like the first one. But anyway, so I think it was he went and did those movies, and then he finally revisited it, and he was able to do it. They filmed it in 2012. Then they had to go back and do reshoots maybe a year or so later. And I know there was a bunch of issues with rights and trying to get people paid. And there was a lot of behind the scenes, just it was corporate stuff, with the studio and all this. So it took a while for it to come out. But when it finally did, oh boy, was the wait worth it.
Yeah, I saw there was just a lot of reviews about just how did they do it. A lot of people are how did he film that? Just the colors of the film and how bright it was. For a post-apocalyptic film, usually it's very gray and dark and dreary, and you're not really seeing much life. But with him, the director, he's no, I want to go complete opposite and make it bright and colorful.
Yeah.
And I guess what I read about that was he wanted it that way because he thought these people who live in this post-apocalyptic world, he's they're going to want to find any certain joys in anything. So they're going to want bright clothes and just something to give them that hope that way.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we watched it this time, I noticed the huge contrast between the daytime shots and the nighttime shots. Nighttime shots, it is dark, but there are certain things that are given attention to. There's a scene where Tom Hardy playing Max Rockatansky, that's his full name. He goes off and leaves them. When he comes back, he's got a bag full of ammunition and guns, and there's blood on his face. But if you notice, the blood's very prominent. Like everything, it almost looks like, for a second it felt like this almost feels like I'm watching like Sin City, where it's like everything's black and white, but like sometimes blood is like it's red, like it's shown. And here it almost felt like that. So it was kind of bringing that to the forefront, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, but what was interesting is those night shots, like all the night scenes, were actually shot in the day. It was shot in the bright daylight, and then they just color contrasted it to, and then just, CGI added in like the stars and stuff.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's because there's a YouTube guys I watch. They're called Red Letter Media. You know of them.
Oh yeah,
you love
the boys.
But they talk about that sometimes, like shooting day for night, like people who do like independent movies. But a lot of people will do that because to shoot at night's incredibly difficult because you have to have like proper lighting and everything.
Which there is none because it's nighttime.
Right. So I mean, unless you have like actual professional lighting, or you're shooting somewhere with a bunch of light posts, which usually just give like it's very harsh, and usually for some reason these people always shoot in the woods. Obviously no lights in the woods except for the moon, but that can be blocked by the trees, so they just shoot night for day. So they shoot in the day and they make it look like night, but obviously it's very like low budget amateur filmmaking. It looks awful, but I didn't know that. That's interesting that they did that. I can see it now.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it now, but it doesn't distract me. Like I still obviously I didn't know.
Yeah.
So you telling me, I'm like, oh, okay, I have no idea.
Yeah, because they're like out in the desert and stuff, so there's nothing to really shadow them.
No, it makes sense too, because you don't want like a bunch of harsh light on all that.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to really like those scenes, I'd say.
Yeah.
But okay. So just what did you think of the movie? What was your like impressions?
It was like very overwhelming to me. I think your senses were just heightened throughout the whole movie. Just I think the way he filmed it, to have that experience of, it's very in your face visually, and sound, like the sound is usually very loud because of all the crazy cars and just the drums and the shouting and screaming. And then everything's very, very bright and contrasty, like the colors are very much in your face that way. And then just the concept, just what is happening is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And just what they all look like, it's just like, oh my gosh, like
I know you were like put off by that at first. I think the first thing I saw of you wincing at was when they were putting in Morton Joe's like armor on, and you see his back, and it's like has all those boils on it.
His skin looked like a corpse's skin. I
know, it's like and he has to put that breathing thing on.
Yeah.
So obviously it's like he's not in the best health at all. Like he's probably, they never say how old he is, but I would suspect he's probably like a guy within his 80s, I bet. And he's just like barely hanging on. He's got all this stuff to keep him alive.
Yeah. It just, all the people, everybody was just so grimy and gross. It was just so grotesque.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I knew your reactions, you would probably be put off by a lot of that. But do you want to explain like what the basic plot is? Because I think what's amazing is that this movie probably has one of the most basic plots for like a modern action movie.
Yeah, all it is a car chase.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. That's all it is. If you think about what's actually going on, it's all coming back to just this grand car chase.
The biggest
it's
car
just
chase.
Like, yeah, Max, like, he's like, I guess he's the main character, but he's almost kind of not.
Yeah.
Because he's just kind of along for this ride. Mm-hmm. And he's somewhere in that we find him when the movie starts, you find him in the desert somewhere, and then he's being chased by the war boys, and they capture him. And then they take him to where they live, which what was it called again, babe?
I think they just call it the Citadel.
The Citadel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, so they take him there, and then they like brand him with their symbol. It was just kind of creepy and crazy because he's having like, has this PTSD and these like visions of these like ghosts of people he couldn't save. And I guess there's this girl that reoccurs throughout the film, and I'm assuming that's like his daughter that he couldn't save, because I think in the end of the movie she called him like near the end she's like, come on, Papa. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, okay, like, because she was mostly the main one that kept popping up.
Yeah, which I was interested to see what you thought of that, because we had actually watched a while back, I had shown you the original Mad Max, the Mel Gibson one.
Yeah.
And if you remember in that movie, he does have a child, but it's a baby.
Yeah, it's a baby.
And the baby, spoilers if you haven't seen Mad Max, but his wife and baby die.
Yeah.
They get run over, I think, by a bunch of motorcycles.
That was terrible.
I know. But yeah, I was thinking, like, what did you think of that? Like, that it's just like, oh, he just has a daughter now. Like, what were your...
I mean, that could be, like, I mean, I kind of didn't associate this film with the other ones. Like, I kind of was like, maybe this is a different version of him. So I didn't think it's going to be exactly like Mel Gibson's version. But I kind of figured, like, oh, yeah, something must have happened. Like, maybe it wasn't even, like... Because they never allude to any wife or lady or anything like that. So I was like, maybe he just met this girl, you know, got a daughter out of it and stuff like that. And then something happened and, you know, he couldn't save her kind of thing. Like, maybe she got captured and he couldn't save her or something.
I think the only, like, alluding they do to, say, the original movies is in his opening narration. He just says, once I was a cop, a road warrior.
Yeah, and his jacket.
Yeah, it basically, like, how he looks.
Yeah.
Is very reminiscent of the old movies. His jacket,
They copied that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they found the Mel Gibson's original jacket in, like, a storage or lost and found somewhere, and they copied it so that it would fit Tom Hardy.
Oh,
so so and one part in the scene where, you know, what's his name, Nicholas Holt's character Nux, he took his jacket, and then Tom Hardy's like, that's my jacket. And then he's because Nux is going on about, like, oh, you could have so much from Immortan Joe, and he just goes, oh, you can ask for more than a jacket. Yeah.
I love that little moment.
Yeah. He's just like, yeah, he was so clueless. He's like, you can ask for more than a jacket. He's like, no. He's like, no, you took his jacket. He wants it back.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of like a nod to, like, oh, pay attention to this jacket. Can't you see it's the same jacket kind of a thing? I think they were trying to do.
I think it's the same jacket. It's the same car. But, well...
in the beginning.
I don't know if it's the same car that was in the original Mad Max, but it probably is. People probably who know more than me would know. But in the Road Warrior, the Mad Max 2, I think that is like a nearly exact replica of that car.
Yeah, it looked like it from, like, the doors and everything.
Mm-hmm. And, like, the exposed engine in the front and everything.
Yeah, so, pretty much then Max is thrusted into this War Boys world, and you come to learn that this Immortan Joe, who kind of is like the leader of all of them.
Well, not only is he their leader,
he's their father. Which of hundreds of these people, so gross. And yeah, so has all these wives, and then apparently the favorites. That's where you then meet Charlize Theron's character, Furiosa, who she's got the shaved head and the black eyes,
and she's missing an arm.
Which they never explain, or, like, she never said how that happened, but you can just kind of, like, assume, you know, something went down and she lost her arm.
Well, I always like when they do that. I like when they don't explain everything about a character in a movie. It's like just from the visuals. That's why I love this movie. It's so visually, like, storytelling. Like, that's all it is. Because when you watch it, there's very minimal dialogue, and any dialogue that's used, it's pretty much just to get you from point A to point B. as far as like maybe like a certain scene transition. Most of the time, everything is just told through what the characters are doing.
Yeah.
So if they're just like fighting, like physically fighting, or if there's a car chase, like there's never any like when they're just driving and like scavengers come in, there's never any explanation of like, that's who these guys are and this is where they come from and this is their story and blah blah blah. Like no, their vehicles just look different. They come in, they attack, they fight. That's it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
But that's why I love like, so like with Furiosa, like you just know like she's lived a tough life and she's Immortan Joe's war rig driver. So obviously she went through a lot of hell to get to that point, to be at that status within his like clan or whatever you call it, especially like as an outsider. Like she's not one of his children, but that's how good she is.
Yeah, no, because she's not one of his children because I'm assuming if any of these wives had girls, they would get rid of them because all of these people that you're seeing are boys, hence the war boys.
Yeah.
Like you don't see any girls other than the wives.
Yeah.
And then there's these people, but it almost seems like they're like the Citadel's people, like maybe he came in and invaded and then started producing all these boys and then like
Right.
So there's like difference because they're kind of up and escalated away from them, and then he's like taking over by cutting off the water supply.
Yeah, he has like a whole like aquifer of water like that he pumps from deep beneath the earth. And I think I would assume it's every day, but all the people down below who they're just there because that's the only place where they can like get that stuff. You know what I mean? Everything else around them is just dirt, desert, nothing. They would die. So that's literally the only way they can survive is by having Immortan Joe give them a little bit of water every day.
Yeah.
That's it. It's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, then you kind of go to then Charlize Theron's character where driving that big rig, and apparently they're supposed to go get gas and bullets.
From where?
What was it like?
Gastown
and Bullet Farm.
The Bullet Farm, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like very simple names.
That's what's great about it, is that like when it comes to the naming of things, they don't try to come up with they don't try to make like another language or something that maybe another filmmaker would have done. Like they just say it's the Bullet Farm.
Yeah.
Because that's where the bullets are.
Where the bullets come
Gas
from.
Town. That's where the gas comes from.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. So they're supposed to go and get more supplies pretty much, but then she goes off road, goes east, and the boar boys are with her like, oh, what's going on? And she's all like, detour or whatever, like this is just where we're going. And then they figure out that she took the favorite wives, the young ones,
yeah,
the young pretty ones, which of course are all like models.
Yeah.
And then so then she has them. She's going to take them to Greenland.
The green place.
The green place. Which is, then you find out later, is where her character is from.
Right.
Kind of a thing. So it's like, and then they figure it out. They go on this huge chase. But it's just like, what they do to Max, like use him as a blood bag.
Oh, I know, it's so good.
It's terrible.
Well, it's terrible, but like story-wise, like yes, it makes sense. Like where else are you gonna get an endless blood supply? It's like just strap another human, and the subtle storytelling's so good because like you were explaining at the beginning, like Max is he's just there. And we come to him at a point in his life where, like, his hair is, like, super long. He's got the super long beard. So he's just trying to survive. Like, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
So when the war boys capture him, they shave off all his hair. So then he looks like Max, how we recognize him. And then they tattoo all the information that they can about him on his back. So, like, height, weight. They test his blood type. And it says universal donor. I think. Yeah. So obviously, like, he's good. Like, they need blood, just hook him up to Max. So that's what they do. And then when Furiosa goes on her detour and Immortan Joe sees it, and he has to get all of the war party together to go after them, one of the war boys, who's Nux, Nicholas Holt's character, he's hooked up to Max. And so for him to be able to go out and drive his rig or his like car thing, they strap Max to the front of the car with him supplying blood to Nux as he's driving.
Yeah, it was terrible.
with a muzzle
with a
thing
big
on.
metal muzzle on his face.
It's so good. And he has that on for like almost like half the movie.
Is it about half?
It's I'd say it's almost half of the movie. And at one point you did say, you're like, does he ever get that thing off his face? It's like,
yeah,
you just gotta watch.
Because he had that on like a long time, so I'm like, man, is he gonna have this on the whole movie? Because I wouldn't have put it past him if he did.
Yeah, I know.
Had it on the whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, then obviously Max gets involved. He's like, I don't want to be strapped to this guy in front of this car chasing after this. And it's just all the stunts and everything is so crazy. But what was interesting or cool is that like pretty much all the stunts were real. Like the only really CGI stuff they did was like they had to CGI all like the stunt rigs, like all the wires and stuff. CGI that out. Shirley Theron's character, her arm is a metal arm. They had to CGI her arm. Yeah. Just like stuff like that. Like maybe the landscape to make it look a little more deserty and stuff.
Definitely like the canyon when they would have to drive through canyons or anything like that was obviously CGI because you can't. It's pretty convincing that it looks real. So I think it was probably they just like kind of like did a cut and paste of like real landscapes and stuck it in there. But it makes sense because obviously you can't drive all these war rigs through there with all of your filming vehicles.
Yeah,
it just wouldn't work.
No, and then like the odds of running out of gas or keeping everybody safe during all these crazy car chases and stunts. Like I mean, maybe there has been, we just don't know. But like, how do people not get injured with jumping from car to car? And
I'm sure there were like some accidents, but there wasn't. I don't remember anything coming out saying like, oh, someone died on set.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, but they built all those. I mean,
know
is that crazy?
Yeah.
All of those. I mean, it looks like they just went to a bunch of junkyards and just said like, hey, let's just finagle and throw all this together. Like, because if you look at the war rig, like the truck she drives, like it's not exactly a truck. It's just like a bunch of like the top parts of cars and like all of this stuff just like smashed together. And it makes sense for this world because it's like, yeah, they would just have scraps of all of these vehicles. So they wouldn't have like fully functioning like just one. I mean, if you found like one car that works, probably that's why Max's car is probably so rare because it's probably the only car in that movie that's like, oh, that doesn't look like it was thrown together. It was probably like a certain way and he made modifications before like, everything went bad, like the world went bad. But for the most part, it seems that like every other vehicle is just like thrown together parts. But what I love too is a lot of the unnecessary stuff that's thrown in, but it's just there because it's awesome. So I'm talking about the Doof Warrior.
Oh.
Remember the guy with the guitar?
That was so insane.
It's a whole rig that's just basically a bunch of speakers so that this guy, which they don't call him by that in the movie, but that is his character's name. He's the Doof Warrior. He's like this guy. He's basically just a crazy guitar player and with a guitar that shoots flames, which actually shot flames. Like that wasn't a special effect. I actually did that. And then it just has a bunch of other dudes strapped to the back of the rig just drumming. So that they have some sort of, how like when like old armies would go into battle and you'd have like the guy on the drums and the one guy with the trumpet. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But just obviously more extreme.
Yeah. Charging them into battle, so to speak,
in the combat. So what did you think of all like the mental play of it? Because there's a lot of substance there. With you get the idea of like, oh, and Morton Joe kind of feeds them a lot of hoopla about like their lives, like what the war boys' lives are like for.
Right. Yeah. No, I think the Morton Joe guy was just this insane guy that just got power and convinced these people that of this idiotic like, oh, if you follow me you'll go into this sort of heaven they called Valhalla.
Well, that's real. So
no, I mean like that that's not, like, Valhalla's not real. Like, he's,
Right.
like, he's telling them all of these things so that they'll follow him and do what he wants.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
It's like a real lore that he's just kind of like, he probably heard about, and he's just feeding it to him to make him work for him.
Yeah, that he's morphing into, like, work for him, and that he's this powerful man that has control over that, and, like, just kind of manipulating them to do stuff like that. Like, that must have been a lot to just, keep straight and keep people to do what he wants that way. Like, it's impressive that he was able to do this, but so messed up.
Oh, yeah. What was key to it, he kept it simple. It says, if you die in battle, you will be granted into Valhalla, which Valhalla it's from Norse mythology.
Yeah.
Where for any warriors who ever died in battle, they're welcome into Valhalla. Is like basically this giant mead hall that the gods like hang out in, and it's like where all these fallen warriors, they go there. From what I understand is like if you go there, if you're granted entrance into Valhalla, you fight all day with people, and say if like you get like your head like lobbed off, it like just gets reattached to your body at night, and then you just party all night, and then you sleep, and then the next day you just do it all over again. And that's what Valhalla essentially is.
Right.
But how he spray paints them.
Yeah, like, you'll go into what Valhalla's shiny and chrome.
Shiny and chrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess is interesting that they use the word chrome, because I read that for Australian slang, chrome is a slang for, like, an inhalant. Like a drug, inhalant drug. So I think all the Aussies would be like, oh. Like, because obviously he gets them, like, all high and crazy. And
because he basically like spray paints their mouth.
Yeah, with this silver chrome spray to get them all, like, more willing to go into, like, death, pretty much.
Yeah,
like,
it gets them just on this crazy high. They get all, like, crazy and jazzed up, and then they're just, like, screaming, like, ah! Like,
witness me.
Yeah, they say, witness me.
Yeah.
Witness this awesome thing I'm about to do.
Yeah, witness me commit suicide.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that was all just kind of crazy, and then but the one part with Nux in near the end when he has his character kind of has a arc, like a development where he starts off as just like any other war boy wanting to serve Joe. And then he kind of realized, like, because then he put it on himself to, like, find the girls and take them back, because then he will be in good graces with Joe and, and stuff like that. But then he ends up helping them, and then kind of realized he doesn't have to do that. And then near the end, to help them, he kind of sacrifices himself. And so instead of, like, screaming, witness me, he kind of just points to the girl and just whispers, like, witness me, kind of thing. And that was like the one part that I felt bad. I was like, oh,
I know,
poor guy.
You do feel bad, because it's like he came so
he
far.
came so far.
You thought, like, oh, he's gonna get to go back and he's gonna get to live a whole different life, but no. Yeah, but I thought that was a good send off for him, because, like, that is what he was trying to.
He kept wanting to do that, wanting to have some great death.
And he got it by, saving them and saving basically like preserving so much life, because because what happens is, so when Max gets involved with, like, Furiosa and the wives, and then they go out and they go to try to find the green place, they run into a bunch of these, they have a specific name in the movie, but all these old ladies
with a V. Like Vivalani.
Vivalorin. Vivali, I think it's something like that. But Furiosa, Charlize Theron's character, learns that, like, these are the last people of the green place.
But that's where she was from, and that's what she was too, right?
Yeah, she was part of them, and so when they learn that, they kind of have to come up with a new plan. Vuvalini. Yep, that's it. But they have kind of, like, the only option they have is they're going to drive across the salt, is what they call it. It's just, like, endless desert for, like, days and months and whatever. I I like how too, like, there's a little thing where when they ask Furiosa, like, how long have you been gone? She says 7,000 days. Like, they don't count in years anymore. They just go by days. Because they don't know when it is, what month it is, whatever. Like, it seems like the world's like in this state where it's like, I'm sure seasons don't really exist anymore. And since they're in the desert, it's like it's just desert all the time. So they just go with however many days, whatever.
So like 19 years.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, did you do that all in your head?
Yep.
So it's either they can try to survive across the like just endless desert, but then Max points out to him, like, you know, if we go back to the Citadel, since Immortan Joe and everybody's like out looking for us and we can beat him back there, we can take control, because since they got water and one of the Vuvolini, she has like a bag full of seeds left over from the green place, so it's like they could grow crops, they could grow all this stuff, and they could live like a better life. But yeah, so that's basically what happened. So they got to go back.
Right.
So then it turns into like another.
Let's do another car chase. All the way back.
Yeah, but I just this movie is just so brilliant to me. I think it's just one of the, just because like it's George Miller who invented Max. Like, he invented these movies. He's directed all of them. I think the only one he kind of fell away from directing a little bit was the third movie back in the 80s called Beyond Thunderdome. And it was something like he had like a friend who passed away, and so he didn't direct a whole lot of that movie. He directed a lot of like the action stuff, and I think a lot of the beginning, but then he kind of fell away, and I think that's why he just fell away from that series altogether. But then it was like in the mid-90s. The story goes, I guess he was just on a plane and the idea just came to him and he just started writing it down, and eventually it led to him finally making this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think what's just so crazy is like he was 77 when they made this, and this movie's like so extreme and in your face. Like, it seems like this would be something, I would say, like, in the hands of like a younger filmmaker, it would have been like so outlandish and ridiculous that it'd be unwatchable. You know, it'd be cringy. But I think the fact that it was made by George Miller, an experienced filmmaker and a very wise man, he knew he knew to, you know, show enough but also have restraint. Because this movie could have gone like way more ridiculous, I think, than it did. It just gave you enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was still very ridiculous.
I know, it's ridiculous, but there's so much subtle storytelling that I think only he could accomplish. And the fact that this movie apparently didn't have like an actual screenplay.
Right.
It was all storyboards. And I guess the guy who drew all the storyboards, he's given a writer's credit because he basically helped write the story.
Yeah.
Just visually. And so since the actors probably didn't have a script to go off of, it was just like, okay, setting up the shot, setting up the scene, and then George Miller would just tell them, like, this is what you're going to say. So kind of improvisation, but more of just coming directly from him. Because there isn't a lot of riffing, obviously. It's mostly just George Miller saying, like, okay, this is what you're talking about. You're going to say this. You're going to say this. Because I'd say there's never any, like, long monologues. There's never any moments where you have to like listen to a character talk for a long time. I'd say the most talking in a scene is when you were talking about Nux, like having his arc when he first talks to the girl, and they kind of have their moment where she's trying to turn him around. Like, that's probably the most talking of like any like small scene. Most of the time it's like it's a little small conversation, boom, and then we go to the next thing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's so brilliantly done, just visually, and it says so much. A lot of people said like it's a very feminist movie without meaning to be.
I could see that with all of the women characters being the more powerful characters, like having their own voice and doing what they want, and, you know, from the wives wanting to get out of that control and tyranny to, you know, Furiosa leading that and being in their protector, and then meeting the Vuvolini group of old ladies who they're trying to survive, and then being very strong within themselves of fighting all these war boys who are chasing them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could see where they're really saying, like, women empowerment here with all of that, just with these strong female characters.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think that was George Miller's intention, which I think is what's nice. Like, he didn't try to make it that way. He was just telling a story.
Yeah.
And that's what people got out of it. I mean, that is like a big forefront part of it. He probably realized it as he was doing it. Like, wow, I have a lot of powerful women characters, but it never seemed egregious. Like, I always think of the scene in Avengers Endgame where it's like they're in the final battle of the movie, and then all of a sudden, just magically, all the women superhero characters are just in one group, magically, and they're like, "Let's go get them, girls!" And it's just kind of like an
very
eye roll,
obvious. Okay, here we go.
You try. Well, it's just like you're trying too hard,
Yeah.
Kind of comes off as sloppy. Where I feel like this is just done very. It all makes sense, Like, there's never any point where, like, I'm questioning, and you don't even think about it. Which is what's good. Like, and that's the point. I think that should be the point of it all. Like, not just like this, but like with all media. You know what I mean? If you have, a movie where it's like an all black cast or something, it shouldn't be something that just shows it off. You know what I mean? Or trying to say like, yeah, this is what we're doing. It should just be that way, And it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just on a soapbox here, but it's just, we should just be accepting of everything, and that's just how humanity should be.
Right.
There should never be question of like, oh, this is a very movie, or I see what they're trying to do here. Like, no, it's a movie, and we all love and accept it because it was something that was made by humans and all that. It's just that's just me. But like, I think like with this, like, it comes off so well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it makes sense. Like, maybe this group of women lost their men. They had to fight for themselves. And then, and just kind of that's how it became just them. And then they had to learn to fight and use guns or whatever it is, like, to survive. So it made sense with their group.
Right.
Of why they are the way they are.
Mm-hmm. But, I'd say, do you have any more thoughts on it?
I think it's like, I can see, like, I like if it's not too complex. Like, it's a simple story, so that makes it, work. Like, there's a goal. Like, the characters need to get away from this guy and then eventually have to go back to survive, but that makes sense. And then, I'm impressed with all how it was filmed, with the stunts being all realistic, like not much CGI, like, and that's cool and everything. And like the characters, you can tell the actors did well with what little they were given. Like, a lot of the actors had no idea what the movie was even going to be about. Like, what are we doing?
They probably were just like, oh, we're going to be in a Mad Max movie. Like, hell yeah! Like, let's do it. Here we go.
Yeah.
I wanted to actually talk about, like, so you had seen the original Mad Max. You haven't seen the other two in between. So you jumped from what that movie was to this movie. Like, what do you just think of the comparison between the two? And knowing that, like, it was made by the same guy.
I think you can definitely see how technology helped from the first to the second. Like, he had a lot more, like, he was able to do a lot more with this Fury Road rather than the first one, because the first one was, what was it, the 70s or 80s?
I think it was the late 70s.
Late 70s.
Yeah.
So it was a little more realistic in the fact that it didn't feel post-apocalyptic as much. It just felt kind of like, because you still felt like you had civilization with the characters and where they were. It was just kind of almost like this crazy gang that was after them, kind of thing, because you still kind of had like organizations and like him being the cop and part of that and everything. So that still felt normal in a sense. You just had these crazy guys.
I forget what they're called, but I love it because there's so much connection between this one and the last one, because the guy who plays Immortan Joe, who I think he died recently. Rest in peace. That guy he only had a few roles in his life, but he had two of the biggest standout roles. You know what I mean? In like the film history. But he plays the villain in the original Mad Max too. Different characters, but same actor.
Both the villain.
Toe Cutter.
Yeah, Toe Cutter, and then in Morton Joe.
His name is the Knight Rider. Remember that?
Yeah. It's just very crazy. I don't know. Like, I obviously respect the film. Like, they did very well. I know they won a lot of Oscars, and I like the fact. I think I like the facts about the movie, like with how the editor was his wife, and how he the director, like, he had her edit the film. And I read somewhere where they asked, like, she asked him why did he pick her, like, why did he think she would do well being the editor, like, why not somebody else? And he said, because if a guy did it, it would look like every other action movie. And he's like, I don't want it to look like all the other ones. Like, you have a different eye, you can make this different, kind of thing. And then she ended up winning, the best editing Oscar for that. So I'm like, well, that was interesting. Like, I guess aspects of it, like, but it's just, I think it's a one and done for me. Like, this isn't like a movie I would want to watch on the regular.
No.
It took it out of me.
It takes it out of me every time I watch it, but I've still, like, I'll revisit it every once in a while just because I think it's so great. I really think George Miller should have won Best Director for it. I mean, I think he would have if The Revenant hadn't come out, which I don't think you've seen that one. I don't know if we'll watch that. It's definitely not one of my favorite movies. Like, film, like, direction-wise, it's brilliant because it's, like, a lot of long takes and the camera work is just amazing. And I could get why, like, yeah, like, that kind of direction, like, yeah, that should win. But just for me, it's just like this guy, like, it's such a legacy thing, you know what I mean? Like, this guy, this old man, George Miller, he basically created this franchise. I think he's a doctor. He was an emergency room heart surgeon. That's how he made money. He would put money aside to make the first Mad Max movie. And then to come back all these years later after having, like, so many different, like, crazy, just weird things happen in his career. Like, he produced and helped direct the Babe movies. Like, and then he made Happy Feet.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because his Mad Max is very, it's gory, it's grimy, it's violent, it's in your face, it's like, it's not heartfelt whatsoever. And then he does Babe and Happy Feet. It's almost like he needed a palate cleanser. He's like, well, these are nice, and I'm gonna try this a little bit.
I think that's what's cool. It's like he doesn't have, like, a signature style. He just directs what he wants to make. And I mean, I'm pretty sure Mad Max is like that. This is kind of like the it's like when people, like, think about, like, oh, we're doing a post-apocalyptic movie. Like, the Mad Max movies are like what they kind of pull from. You know what I mean? It's like how it's almost like a lot of space films or okay, here's a good one. Like a lot of, like, science fiction movies or, like, things about astronomers or anything, or astronauts. I meant astronauts. But they usually pull from, like, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, that's usually, like, what they get, like, certain ideas from, and they usually go back to Kubrick. So I'm sure anyone who makes a post-apocalyptic movie, they say, like, whoa, obviously, like, inspired by Mad Max. Like, that, it's just, it all came from him. And for him to just come back all these years later and make this incredible film, which is still resonating. Like, I love The Revenant. Like, it's a well-made movie, but people aren't talking about it. You know what I mean? It came out, it was good, it's done. This movie is timeless. Like, people will be watching this movie for years, and I think it's gonna probably, like, say, like, in the next 20 years when it's like, what are the top 100 films of all time? This is gonna be on there. Definitely. Because it's so well made, it's so simple. And I'd say like what it's representing, it came out in a time where it said a lot without trying to. And and I think that's like where Hollywood's like being pushed towards, because you watch like older movies nowadays, especially like with the culture and the way like a lot of voices are outspoken a lot more than they used to be. You watch a lot of like older films, you can kind of see where a lot of repression is coming in, and certain ideals about like roles of like especially like female characters in film and stuff, and it's like this is their position, but it's like no, like women can be action stars too. They can be all the action stars of all the movies, And I'm pretty sure this movie came out in a time too where there were so many action films coming out, but it was like making your head hurt, Like it was just so much CGI and just stories that just are so forgettable. But you don't forget this movie. However you feel about this movie, babe, you're not going to forget it. And it's going to, whenever people start talking about it, you're going to be like, it's all going to come like flooding back to you,
Oh no, yeah, this movie is definitely not forgettable. Like, yes, granted, it's not like it wouldn't be a go-to movie for me personally, just based on who I am and what I like. This isn't kind of my thing. But it's like I can recognize how it's a good movie, a good film, how it was made, and what the director was going for. Like I respect all of that and like the simplicity of the story, and just kind of was like the action itself is insane, and it was just like I can't believe he did this, and I was it was very cool to know that the action and the stunts were all legitimate rather than relying on CGI. So all of that, great. I didn't necessarily like enjoy watching it just because of the certain things that they would show. Maybe I'm just kind of sensitive to. Like I appreciated like there was a part where Shirley Theron's character ripped off Morton Joe's face.
Oh yeah,
which is horrifying, but you were like, oh, don't watch this.
Don't watch. And there's a scene where one of the wives,
oh yeah,
the I can't remember her name, where she's a supermodel, but she's in
she's
only
in
in 2 movies. She's
Transformers.
In this and Transformers. I think she's great in this. Like she does a great job, but she's pregnant. Like she is
very pregnant.
And she's about to give birth to like the new war boy, and she dies.
Yeah, because she gets thrown off the rig and then gets ran over
by Morton Joe's vehicle.
Yeah, by Morton Joe's vehicle, and
on
so
accident.
Yeah, they pretty much cut the baby out because she died, but the baby's died too, right?
It's dead. Yeah. It's yeah, I told you not to watch it. It's not as graphic, but it's more of because you don't see him like slice her open and take the baby out. It's kind of like the camera's just like up on him, and you just kind of hear like and then he takes it out, and you just kind of see, obviously it's like a baby doll or whatever. I mean, it looks real, but he just has like this newborn dead baby, and he just like slams it down on the table. You don't see it, but you just hear it, and it's just like but the total disregard for like the dead, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter, it's dead. Like we don't care, like even though it's a newborn baby. And it like cuts back to this character, her name's Miss Giddy, and she's obviously like the caretaker for all the brides, and Morton Joe like brings her along with them because like she helped him escape, obviously. But like it cuts back to like Morton Joe just like worrying about like, oh, the baby, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the guy, he's called the organic mechanic, and he's the one who like sliced open the girl and took the baby out. And it's cutting back to Miss Giddy, and you just see her face, like she's like crying. She's like, oh my gosh, like like how they're treating like this situation, which is usually like a birthing scene in anything, or just a birth in general. Like it's a very stressful, but it's a very tender moment, like once the baby comes out. But just the fact that he just takes his baby out of her stomach, just slamming it on the table, and he just takes the umbilical cord and he's just swinging it around like a rope. And it's just so awful, but it just shows just how far gone these people are of like being, I would say almost like being human, you know what I mean? Like they just have total disregard for human life. Like they're just like, whatever, it's all bantha fodder to us. They don't care,
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, I think that's what's like, I don't like that. Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see this poor baby, dead baby getting ripped out of this dead woman. Like, and just like, clearly, yeah, you can see how the humanity is not there. Like, they don't look human. Like, they're very deformed, and they look almost like skeletons because their skin is very stark white, but yet they all have that black on their heads, and then they just look disgusting. And
I think they're painted.
I'm sure they're painted,
but I think like in the context of the movie itself, I think they actually do paint themselves white. Like, I don't think it's like their skin's white, but I think there's the one guy who, he's a child of Immortan Joe. His name's Rictus Erectus. I think he's kind of like the big boy. Like, because I don't, when I looked at him again, I'm like, I don't think he has any boils on him.
The really big muscular guy.
Yeah, with the big gun.
He had something on his face. It was like some rubber thing on his face.
I think that sometimes that goes down to like people just wear weird stuff in these movies. If you hadn't seen Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, but in that one, it's like people are like wearing like just the most bizarre outfits. Like, I can't remember the main bad guy is. He's kind of like a resemblance of Rictus, but he's wearing like this big face shield for no reason, and he's just got like the straps and the way his costume is. It's totally unnecessary, but it's just, hey, it's just how they want to dress. They don't care, you know?
Yeah.
But I think what I was asking before too is like just the total polar opposite between like the first Mad Max and this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this one was kind of like, it seemed like Miller was able to finally give birth to this vision that he had. It almost like, it was like, this is how grand he probably always wanted it to be. And the fact that he was able to bring life to that, and that it was this monumental movie that clearly was just kind of insane, that he was able to actually complete and do well because of how well it was received, then I'm sure that was kind of like a full circle for him to like finally be able to do that.
Yeah.
So again, like, my opinion is just, obviously it was a very big movie, and I know people love it, and it's insane. It's just a lot. It's gross, and it's weird, and it's just, I don't know. I'm sure there's some girls out there that like, I'm not saying maybe it's just a dude's movie, but it definitely appeals to a more masculine, like, favor, because it's just, it's cars and guns and fighting and gross people, and I don't know.
I almost feel like a lot of that stuff though, it's just part of the world. Like, there's never any specific attention given to like the cars or anything. Like, obviously we just see them, but they don't have like any other integral part of the story other than like, oh, we got to fix this, or oh, we got to get in the car.
No, it's just leave it. Like, it's broken, let's leave it.
It's not like Fast and Furious where it's like we got to spend like 5 minutes talking about the intricacies of I don't even know if that's the word, but just like all the how this car's made and done and and
I'm not saying like the cars is the main aspect of the film. It's not. It's definitely just a feature or a piece of it. I'm just saying, like, as the film altogether, just everything part of it. Like, yeah, that's part of the world, and that's fine. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's not something I like. Like, this isn't something I deem attractive or what I would like to see.
Right.
If that makes sense. It's just like this is gross.
I was just gonna say, because you mentioned earlier about Max, like how he's just kind of like on the sidelines for a lot of this.
And for a lot of it, but then in the end, when they find the Vuvellini women, and she's like, "Where's home? Where's Greenland?"
The Green Place.
The Green Place. I keep thinking Greenland. Green Place. They're like, "Oh, you passed it." Like, that was the creepy
with all the crows.
The crows
and,
and
stuck in
the mud and stuff. They're like, oh, you must have passed it. And then
people on sticks with the cloaks.
Yeah, they're like, and she realized it's not no more. And then they were just gonna leave and keep going. And Max is like, I could just let him go because it's not my problem. But then I think that part of his past of being a cop and being a protector to help people, he's like, all right, I can't let this happen. If you go that way, you're gonna die. You need to go back because there's water there. You know where it is. You know you can survive there, kind of a thing. So then he stepped up and kind of then became the hero, so to speak, of getting them back and then saving her life because she got very injured.
Yeah, she gets stabbed. It looks like she gets stabbed in the kidney.
She got stabbed in the side, and then just all this bad stuff. And so then he rigged up to donate his blood to her, blood transfusion. Donor. Yeah, because he's a universal donor, so he's able to, give her some blood. She's losing blood and she was gonna die. So yeah, he did all this stuff to get them there. And then as the loner hero goes, he leaves.
Yeah. It's appropriate.
Which makes sense. I'm like, yeah, he's not going to stick around.
Which, I get it. But every time I do watch it, I'm like, oh, come on, Max. You got a good setup here. You could
stay. Where are you going to go?
Yeah, where are you going to go? You don't have a car now. Well, I'm sure he'll just borrow one of the vehicles. But it's just everything out there sucks. What are you doing? But it's kind of that's just him. That's the lone hero. He needs to, keep going out there. That's just how that's how the legend is. That's why, in a way, I think even George Miller said it's he perceives all these Mad Max movies, they all kind of take place in different types of worlds, and it's almost we're just being shown oh, this is just a different tale of Max,
Yeah, but in the end, Max is still Max. He's gonna help. He's gonna be the hero, but then he's got to move on and go somewhere else and then do it all over again.
Yeah. And it takes a while for him to get into helping them because most of his story for the first part of the movie is I just want this thing off my face. He just won't. I know. And you had your sixth sense kicked in where he's in the truck and he can't drive it because there's all these kill switches that Furios had set up, and she's trying to convince him to oh, you're relying on the word of a madman, you think you're gonna get far, what do you think's gonna happen? And then she just goes, well, you said, I think he just wants that thing off his face. And then Furiosa goes, you want that thing off your face? And you just see Max turn to her yes. That's all I want right now.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I said something. I think I just said what she's gonna say.
Yeah.
I was just she's gonna say, I could get that thing off your face. And then that's what she said. She's like, I'll help you get that thing off your face. I'm like, can't you see my powers?
Okay, so I guess we'll just chalk it up to, what are you going to give it?
See.
Be careful.
I know, you're going to do this to me. You're going to make me feel like this terrible person. It's not that I don't. Okay. Yum and Yuck, if we're going just to the Yum and the Yuck, the movie itself is yucky, and just with how gross everything is in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I guess I liked moments. I liked moments of the movie. The movie as a whole, I'm not saying it was my favorite by any means. It was a lot. It was okay, I've seen it. That's all I need. I got out of it what I could, kind of a thing. I liked moments of just the characters either overcoming certain obstacles or helping each other or this certain stuff I will appreciate, but it's just not my favorite. It's not my movie. It's your movie, and I know you love it.
It's a lot of people's movie.
Okay, but hey, I can be that 20% of people who are
You're more that 3%.
Well, okay, based on some reviews, I think I saw it got an 8 out of 10. So those 2-star people or whatever
are wrong.
Or whatever. It's an opinion. It's blame it on just I like nice happy things.
Right.
And it was just, you know me, mindless killing. I'm not about it. But, okay, babe. Why don't you send us off?
All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in to Don't Yuck My Yum. We'll be back next week, all right?
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Hey everybody, this is Carlito Gilchrist from the Don't Yuck My Yum pod. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuning in and listening every week. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to leave a review for the show, you can leave it on Apple Podcasts. You can give us a 1 to 5 star rating. We prefer the 5-star ratings, but it's your opinion. It's whatever you like. As well, you can listen to us on Spotify and Anchor.fm and anywhere else where podcasts are available. I believe we're up on there. If you have any suggestions for future episodes or insights on past episodes, you can always email us at don'tyuckmyyumpod@gmail.com. As well, you can follow us on Don't Yuck My Yum Pod on Instagram. And I just want to say thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. Have a good week. So long. Bye-bye.